Hi guys and girls, and welcome back to some more videos from me, GingerGM. Now, as you may have guessed, I've been away for about a week and a half actually playing some chess. I kind of feel as a chess player I need to play the odd tournament. Sorry I didn't post when I was over there. Obviously it was a bit tricky and I didn't have much time to prepare anything, but I'm going to come back at you now with loads of videos. So what this video is going to be about, and maybe a couple more, is the most interesting games that I played from the Vienna Open, which is where I've just been to. Have to admit, probably the most beautiful playing hall and one of the most beautiful capital cities I've ever visited. It was simply a stunning place, and I would love to go back there again. I mean, the chess had ups and downs. I mean, to start with, I was sharing with a good friend, but I didn't realise how much of a snorer he was, so I had to change rooms during the tournament, but had a great time with him, and it was lovely having him as company. Met some other people over there, so even some guys and girls who watched the YouTube channel. So hello, Stefan. Thank you for a very pleasant time in Vienna. It was really lovely meeting you and everyone else. So let me, before I go on to the game, and I've got a great game to start with. Well, I actually won this game, so of course it's a bloody great game. I thought I'd better start with a win rather than my loss, and I will show my loss at another time. Just show you where the playing hall was and maybe get you into the kind of mood of what was going on in Vienna. So the playing hall was the town hall, so-called the Rathaus in central Vienna, and quite near the Sigmund Freud Museum. And of course, Freud was from Vienna. I mean, so was a number of other people. And here is the venue. Now, I have to say that doesn't even do it justice, this picture. It's a brief overview of what we saw. We had a lot more room in my section than you get there, but it was simply an amazing venue. It's like playing at Buckingham Palace or somewhere like this. So that was certainly a highlight. Also, let's just see if I can show you the outside of this venue, because there was a film festival going on at the same time, and that is the outside of the venue. So when you finish your game, you can walk downstairs to this free film festival, which is great. Opera playing, and of course right next to that there's this area here where you could get normally a seat and enjoy a nice bottle of Austrian wine. And I have to say we did that on numerous occasions. So that was some of the highlights. I mean, I'll show you the standings, the final standings of the competition as well. So this is the final round, after the final standings after 9 rounds. You know, I was slightly disappointed in my performance. I mean, I still did reasonably okay. I had some good moments there. You can see that I was in 17th place in the end. Congratulations to Marcus Rager, who won the competition. And he played brilliant chess and deserved to win it. You know, my friend Keith Arkall was there, so was my friend Lee Bullock from England, and Dan Bisbee, another good friend of mine, and lots of other nice people. So we spent many a night enjoying ourselves. I'm going to share one of the funniest moments of it before I move on to the chess. I mean, there was many good times, but after the one game I lost, I mean, if you play chess, you probably realise you lose a game, you're a little bit upset. And I've never had this before. I thought, well, let's go and have a drink, as you do. And I got my friend Keith Arkall and Lee Bullock together, and we popped down to an Irish bar, because it was raining, so we thought we won't sit outside. So we went to this Irish bar. Had a smoking area in the Irish bar. I mean, I kind of felt like a cigarette after my loss, so I sat in the smoking area on my own. And this was the first thing that happened to me after I lost my only game here. I was sitting there in the smoking area, and some kind of quite scary looking chap came up to me. And I was sitting on my own at this moment, and he said, and I won't repeat his words because it was a little bit rude, something along the lines of, "Give me a bloody cigarette now." You know, a little bit more aggressively with some ruder words than that. So I looked at him. I wasn't in a very good mood, and I said, "Excuse me," and he goes, "I know you're English. Give me a cigarette now." And I was like, "Hey, look, maybe if you ask nicely, I might consider giving you a cigarette." And then he started going mental, and I was like, "Look, just this is getting a little bit iffy here." And then he said, "You're to blame for Dresden. You destroyed my town of Dresden. And I was like, oh my words, this is getting a little bit too much. I mean, how many times has this happened? I'm just like, I've just lost a game of chess. I'm just sitting on my own, and this guy's going to attack me. So I said, I was got a bit angry at this stage, and I told him to go away in a very polite way. And I think he noticed there it was a good time to go away, and he went away. That was very bizarre, though. That was probably the downside, the only down moment. And if that's the only down moment, you can see how great it was. Everyone else was beautiful there. You know, beautiful people I met, lovely people, lovely hospitality, and just beautiful buildings, beautiful everything. Wine, beautiful food. Chess was beautiful at times, but terrible at others. Anyway, enough of me wabbling on with my recent trip. Let's get on to the game. Now, what I'm going to show you here is a game I had as black. And it was in the King's Indian Defence, an opening I only rarely play. And the one thing I want you to take away from this game is something that's been nibbling at me for a while now. And I'm going to do two main things in this game. Number one, I'm going to try to teach you some key ideas, concepts in the King's Indian Defence. So hopefully after watching this video, you'll have a better understanding of the opening. And the other thing I'm going to do is try to show you how computers can be wrong. One of the biggest criticisms I get on the YouTube channel, Twitter, other things, is people saying, this line is not right according to the computer. The computer gives it as minus 0.83147. I looked at it on my computer even though I don't bloody understand a word of it. You're wrong. The computer says this is bad. You don't know anything. And I'm like, wow, this kind of gets on my nerves because computers can be very powerful tools and they often tell you the truth about positions. But so many people I try to help use computers without even looking at the board. They put a move into their computer, they will look at the assessment. It's changed from 0.36 to 0.39. Oh my words, must be a bad move. And they don't understand the ideas. For example, one criticism I had recently is in the Black Lion. And you've probably seen my video on that. In this kind of position, people are saying the computer gives this a minus blah, blah, blah. It must be a bad opening. Well, look, that's just wrong. That's not going to help you get better. Try to think about the position yourself. Understand the concepts, the ideas, what's going on, how you can take advantage of this, and just think for yourself. Turn the bloody computer off. You know, it makes me angry. Okay, did you guess that? Now, I'm going to show how that relates to this game I played here. Okay, let's go on with the game. Finally, I hear you're saying. Okay, so the game started d4, and I played g6. I wanted to play a hyper-modern setup. This is where you attack the centre from the side. So I was kind of ready for something like Tiger's Modern. I got the book for free from Tiger Hillett Person, a Grandmaster, a friend of mine. And if someone gives you something free in life, you should use it, don't you think? Very rude to turn down a free beer, you know, for example. But my opponent, who I thought was an e4 player, now to my surprise played c4. And I was already like here, right, I didn't really expect that one. So I thought, okay. And my opponent, who seemed like a very nice guy, Santagati from Italy, rated about 2300. Obviously knew some theory. So we go into the King's Indian Defence. And this is where white gets a big centre, but black attacks the centre from the side. Now, Kasparov, Bobby Fischer played this opening as black, and I trust them more than computers. Computers are stronger, yes they are. Can they teach you concepts? No, they can't. And computers love space, so white has the space here, but practically attacking this centre from the sides can be a very good tactic. Now we go to main line, which I can remember sort of, but I don't know the main moves, just the ideas. And I'm going to show you how these ideas helped. Bishop e2, castles, knight to f3, the main line King's Indian Defence. When you play the King's Indian Defence, there's two breaks, c5 or e5. Now, the break I think most King's Indian players prefer playing, and that includes myself, is the break e5, the main move in this position. Now, taking doesn't win a pawn because there's some trick when knight takes e4 after some forced moves, and the main position, the main move here is castles kingside. I increase the pressure on the centre now with knight to c6, and my opponent plays again the main move d5. And already things have changed, because look, now the pawn structure is locked. When the pawn structure goes from being fluid, and it was fluid before, what I mean by fluid is there was opportunities to capture pawns, to open up the position, to a locked position, which means the position is closed, it's not much, there's more manoeuvring. You have to think again. How has this pawn structure changed the position? And the first key thing to remember here is that it's locked. I need to look at pawn breaks. Now, I know straight away from playing this opening, looking at the games of great players, and this is how I learn things really. I look at the games of Kasparov and Fischer in this opening. Black has the f5 move here, and this is his main break to attack on the king side. On the other hand, white attacks on the queen side with c5. So this is the first thing you need to know. Even here, the computer will say that black is clearly worse. Now, you go tell that to some of the best players in the world and see what they think, Think for yourselves. Knight to e1, a main move favoured by such players as Korchnoi. And I knew here that knight d7 is the main move because this controls c5 in a more dynamic way, making it harder for white to play c5. And then I want to go f5. But because my opponent was moving so quickly, I thought I'd play a less known move. Well, I don't know the move, and I was hoping my opponent didn't either. But it follows the principles. Knight to e8. And of course, I'm getting ready for Freddie to charge up the board, creating an attack on the king side. My opponent plays bishop e3. I go f5. He now goes f3, keeping his pawn structure intact. And now the second thing is I can now lock it on the king side with f4. This is a normal idea. And after bishop f2, I've locked up the pawn structure again. So what do I need to do again? Remember, every time you lock a pawn structure, you need to look for another break. If you don't have breaks in locked pawn structures or good piece maneuvers, you will find yourself drifting aimlessly, and no one wants to do that. Not even in Vienna. There's more to see in Vienna than other places, but still. So the next pawn break, where is it? Have a think here for yourselves. Well, the next pawn break, as I know, should be the break g4, trying to attack the king. So I go g5, naturally. My opponent plays his pawn break, c5. And now I've got to think how I'm going to arrange g4. Well, I need to play h5 at some moment, but first of all, I need to maneuver my pieces to better squares and also think about my opponent's plan. My opponent is going to try to open up the c file and try to come in on c7. So I now play a typical maneuver. And again, I don't know if this is theory. It seems like a very decent maneuver though. Knight g6. Watch how this knight could be useful later on. Rook c1, preparing for the opening of the c file. And now another key thing you need to know if you play the King's Indian defense. This next maneuver is a key maneuver. Rook f7. And this move, which looks very strange at first sight, combines defense and attack. And this is a maneuver all King's Indian players need to know. It defends one of the key squares, c7, and we're going to see why this is important. At some point, my opponent will try to come in on this square. So that's a key idea first. And also, it has a way to rearrange my pieces. Bishop f8 is a good, sensible defensive move, defending another weakness. And then my rook will sneak its way over to g7. When I then go and play my attacking move g4, my rook will be ready to kaplonk. And we all like kaplonking on our opponent's king, don't we now? So my opponent now played a4. I continue with h5, getting ready for g4. My opponent plays a5. And now a kind of key moment here. Well, first of all, I wanted to play a move like knight to f6 here. g4 doesn't work straight away because my opponent has 1, 2, 3 pieces defending that square. And I only have 2 guarding that square. And my opponent would be able to take that pawn comfortably if I go g4. For example, let's say I go g4, the move I want to play. Well, then white simply takes, and he simply takes. And if he can take with a piece on g4, he gets a very nice position. I have no way to really attack on the king side here. So in this position, g4 has to be prepared. So I was thinking about knight to f6 here. But even when you're attacking, you have to be aware of your opponent's possibilities. And I was scared here about my opponent's standard plan, because having a pawn on a5 is very useful for him. And his standard plan would be pawn takes pawn, knight b5. And we have another key moment I want you guys to understand when you play the King's Indian defense. First of all, this idea is often to grab the pawn, often to come to c7. But the biggest threat here to black's setup is if the knight can grab the pawn and then take your bishop on c8. Now that might seem quite mysterious. Why does white want to take this bishop on c8, which looks like a bit of a potato, a stupid, well, potatoes aren't stupid, but a dead potato in the ground. It hasn't come to life yet. This bishop on c8 is a key piece for black's attack. I'll show you why in a second. Now, it's very hard to deal with this idea knight b5. I want to play a move like a6, and after knight a7, go bishop d7. This would be okay. But my opponent has a crafty, what we call intermezzo move, a move in the middle of the series, and that is bishop b6 here. This is a very annoying move, because I move my queen, and my opponent can do another strong idea, the second strong idea, knight c7. And this really gives him a very dominating position, because after my rook moves, well, he can either go bishop a7, try to win a rook. This is a last nasty little tactic. And even in some positions, knight to e6. Again, this would force me to exchange my bishop. Now, why is it so important to have this bishop? Well, let me demonstrate what black is trying to do. In this position, after knight to f6, if white doesn't know what he should be doing, so if he doesn't take and he doesn't go knight b5, if he doesn't do this, then you have a very strong attacking idea. Let's say he goes b4. We go g4, and now let's say he plays a move like king to h1. Well, first of all, b4 is a mistake here, because as Kasparov and Bobby Fischer showed in this precise, well, not precise position, but same position, the pawn sacrifice g3 is incredibly strong here. Why? Because if white takes on g3 twice, you have the move h4. This is another key concept. Try to remember. The bishop moves, and you now have knight to h5. And these knights are about to fly in with your queen coming over. You have a massive attack building. So this pawn sacrifice gives you fantastic attacking chances. So this is something well worth remembering, the move g3. Now, after g3, what happens with bishop g1? Well, here there's a number of good moves, but let's say you play something along the lines of, for example, h4 would be good, but I'm just going to demonstrate a variation, knight to h7. This knight often comes to this square to attack, and my queen wants to join in. Now, if I did not have this light square bishop, white would always be able to play the move h3. If this bishop wasn't here, he would practically have a dead... No, I couldn't break through. I mean, maybe here I could have knight g5, but the general rule is, and a rule you have to remember, you have to be able to meet h3 with the next move, bishop takes h3. Otherwise, in this opening, you cannot get an attack. This is a key move to have. If that bishop is ever gone, h3 will defend white's kingside. But with that bishop, he can't defend it. And here, something like pawn takes bishop, queen over here is going to be winning. King g2 and now knight g5, for example. There might even be something stronger, but this is clearly winning here. So this is one of the reasons why, which again I learnt from the great players and reading about the great players Kasparov and mainly Fischer, that you need in these lines to keep hold of this bishop to have a successful attack. So another thing you should remember here. Now, in the game, I didn't like knight f6 because, as I demonstrated, this idea is knight coming here was strong. So I just played bishop to f8 and just keeping with my plan. My opponent should have taken on d6 here, no doubt about it. But he played knight d3. And now, because I have one more defensive piece, I went knight to f6. I have to come forwards at some moment. My opponent took on d6. I recaptured with the pawn. Bishop takes was interesting, but I didn't like knight c5 to e6. Again, that would get rid of my important piece. So I played pawn takes d6. And now a key mistake from white here. I thought my opponent had to play knight to b5. Of course, always assume your opponent's going to play the best moves. After knight b5, I was even tempted to go bishop d7 here to keep this bishop at a lot of costs, but the move I probably would have played with queen takes a5. And I think my opponent missed his next move. And I was thinking here, well, if he has to move the knight, obviously I'm doing absolutely fine. I can even move my queen back and do the same kind of thing. But he actually has rook a1. And during the game, it's a very fascinating variation. Queen takes b5. Looks like I won a piece and a pawn. But now knight takes e5. His subtle point. Well, not so subtle because he's attacking my bloody queen. And here, I have to really sacrifice my queen. And we get some weird position like this, where I have 3 pieces for the queen. Generally, my personal rule is the 3 pieces are stronger than the queen. So I think I'd have been happy with this, but it's just it's a mess. It's a complete bombshell, blast, whatever you bloody call it, on the board. So we had to do this. And in critical openings like this, every tempo is key. Now, after my next move, b4, I simply play bishop d7, stopping knight b5, completing my development. Now, even here, I was amazed. When I put this on Houdini, the strongest computer out there, for the brief second, Houdini's first initial thought to this position is that white is better. Now, try this at home if you don't believe me. My initial thought about this position is that black is winning. I thought black is completely and utterly winning here. Why? Because now I've stopped all my opponent's ideas on the queen side. He cannot attack me there without numerous tempo. And I'm ready to go g4. And if I go g4, remember what we do after that? We either go g3, sacking a pawn with an attack, or we can just even build up a rook g7. Whatever happens, my attack will be devastating, especially against another human. Now, just see how I didn't know the theory of this opening, but I know the ideas. If you know the ideas, you can pretty much play any opening. That's all you need. Forget about what the computer says. It does not help you in these positions. If Magnus played Magnus here, I think Magnus would win at least 70-80% of the time with black here. Computer doesn't teach you these things. Only by understanding great players and the concepts can you learn. For example, now, my opponent played h3, trying to stop g4, one of Houdini's top moves. But now I can play g4. And the difference between this and last time is that my opponent will be forced to take with a pawn on g4. For example, the game went pawn takes g4, pawn takes g4. I've sacked one pawn. But it's totally different now he has a pawn on g4. I now play a standard maneuver. Knight to h7. I'm just rearranging my pieces on the king side to the best squares possible. My knight on g5 would be a fantastic attacking unit, preparing f3 and generally attacking squares like e4. Bishop to e1 played, with the idea of going knight f2. My knight comes to g5. I briefly thought that my opponent's idea here might be king f2 to try and run away to the other area of the board. I remember International Master Jack Rudd playing a similar idea against me in one game, and he won that game. And now I had the very strong move b6, attacking on the other side, trying to get my queen to this square. Or at the time, again, just to demonstrate how, if you learn concepts, you get better. If you want to learn an opening, find the highest rated player in that opening and look at his games in that opening. Best way to prepare. There was a famous game, I remember this encounter between Jerome Pickett of the Netherlands and Garry Kasparov. And Garry Kasparov came up with an amazing concept in a King's Indian structure. And that was the move a6. Pretty sure it's Kasparov. It might have been Judith Pogard, but it doesn't matter. It's the concept's important. And the idea of this weird move is like, well, let's say white doesn't do anything devastating here. Let's say he goes something like knight a2, now queen b8. Look at this idea. The queen comes this diagonal with devastating effect. What a sneaky little idea that is, the hidden queen. It's like a little, leprechaun jumping out to steal your pot of gold. And that's just a very nice idea. But my opponent didn't play this. I already think he's lost here, personally. He went knight f2. My attack plays itself. My rook goes to the open line near his king. What can be better than this? Queen d3. Now I'm going to ask you what you'd play here. In a second, I'll ask you to pause the video. You're going to be black. What should you play? Pause the video now. What should black play? Well, the next move is a standard pawn sacrifice. I want to flood his position like a tsunami with my pieces. So how can I improve that? Let's give up a second pawn. F3. Very natural move to play. My opponent took, and now I have the F4 square for my knight. They come flooding in. His queen came back, and now we come to another little rule I have in chess. It's basically called the smash bang wallop rule. In positions where you clearly have the initiative, you're clearly attacking, such as this position, you should look for checks, look for captures, looks a way to break through, break on through to the other side. If you can't do that, if there's no obvious way to do that, just bring in reinforcements. Bring in the pieces that aren't doing anything. I didn't see a way to break through, so my queen comes to f6 with ideas of queen h6. Very simple. Bishop d2 now played. My opponent wants to go rook e1, maybe run with this. I didn't see any way to break through, so I improved my pieces. Bishop e7. My last piece wants to join in the attack. Now knight d3. My opponent finally cracks. And again, another little hint here. Even in complicated positions like this, where you're 2 pawns down, you should, if you have a chance to simplify and go for the simplest option, why overcomplicate? I may have a number of good moves here, but I can take on d3 when 4 pieces will be exchanged. And if I think that's going to end up good for me, let's keep it simple. Don't overcomplicate in good positions. Simple is good. So here I decided I could take here. Now we have a 4 sequence. Bishop g5, queen g5, queen takes d3, and now queen h4. And we can see how my bishop's going to come here, and I have lovely threats over here. Knight to d1 played from white. And now I saw a very interesting idea. Another little test for you. I mean, I played the very strong bishop g5 here. But one idea that sprung to my mind, I didn't play it because it's not so great, is queen h2 check, king f2. And now the bonkers, out this world, weird move. Oh, no, it's not in this position. Okay. Oh, no, it is in this position. No, it is this position. Sorry, it is still. Yes, queen g3 check. I have got this right. I thought I was tricking myself there because it's such a weird move. You might be thinking, what on earth is this guy doing? He's gone mad. But again, I'm going to leave this to you guys. Why is king takes g3 a double dubious move marked from white here? Pause the video if you need to. It's black to play and checkmating 2 moves. And this would have been a beautiful way to finish the game. But the problem is with this move, if my opponent just goes king e2, I've helped him move his king to a more secure square. So I didn't go for this. In this position, my opponent's king is trapped here. Why let it escape? So I just improved my pieces, the smash bang wallop move. I couldn't smash bang wallop, so I bring in more reinforcements. Rook to c2, the rest is quite easy. His dart squares are too weak. There's too many holes on his dart squares, so I move my pieces into these squares. g3, he's getting desperate. Queen takes g3, forcing his rook over, and now here. Because I have ideas now of bishop h2 check. His rook moves back. I annoyed that with bishop a4, and now bishop h2 check. My opponent is forced to go king h1. There's a lovely checkmate if he goes king g2, queen g3 check, and bishop g1. Lovely, weird kind of psychedelic checkmate there. Now my opponent therefore has to go king h1. The smash bang wallop wall. I couldn't see any way to win this instantly, so I bring in reinforcements. Rook f8. Simple stuff. Knight to c3. Again, there are flash moves like bishop b3, king g7 here. Might be good, but keep it simple. Another rule. King doesn't move. The bishop simply comes back, and now there's nothing white can do. I have a plan of just going king g7, rook h8, with too much going on the Harry file. Harry would be proud he's given up his life here. And after rook f2, I simply check him. He has to play his king to this square so his bishop can try to defend. But now I don't even bother taking on f2. I just play bishop takes g4. And the point is, his piece here will be overloaded. Queen to h1 will be mate. And it should be clear to see that this is a good position for him to resign in. And he resigned here. So I think that was one of my better games, and it just showed that really that's kind of experience more than anything else playing in. I was kind of brought up in a non-computer age, And I learnt most of my ideas not from computers. Don't get me wrong, computers are normally always right and they should be listened to, but they're not always right. And they can't always teach you the ideas. They can't always teach you the same kind of things that Kasparov and Fischer could teach you. And we could see in this game here that by using the Kasparov and Fischer rules of old, they can still triumph on some of the ideas of Komodo knew. And it worked ideally in this game. I knew the ideas, I knew what I should be playing. In actual fact, it was quite a, I'm not going to say easy game, but easier game. Anyway, I will try to do some more videos. I'm back now. I actually have some videos from the tournament I want to put up, but my iPhone is messing me about at the moment. So I can't get them off my iPhone onto YouTube. I'll keep trying. I'll be back with some more videos soon. Don't worry, I'll play some Blitz as well. Please let me know if you like this video. If you don't like this video, then that's also fine, actually. Don't mind. You should have turned off bloody long time ago, shouldn't you? You should have turned off a long time ago. What are you still doing here? But anyway, thank you for listening, and I'll be back soon with some more chess. And hopefully you learnt some ideas there in the King's Indian defence, and maybe they'll help you play the opening if you so wish to in future. Okay, bye for now.